All right. So I've got Cory here, and Cory, was on the program like 2.5 years ago, and I just heard recently from another guy, Adrian, that he picked up his first 100K fee. So we're going to have a bit of a chat about sort of where he was, where he is now, and for those who think, oh, 100K fee for one project, that seems outrageous. I want to know what he did. Did he have to make mental changes? What technical changes did he focus? I don't know. So I don't even know. We were talking about it before we just started recording, and I said we've got to stop this because I need to discover as everybody else is discovering. So, Cory, can you just introduce yourself? Give us a rundown on who you are, what you do, what's your niche, and then we're gonna get inside your head.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I'm Cory Walker, based out of Los Angeles, licensed architect, and joined AMI about 2.5 years ago, and launched my own practice 3 years ago. So I'm running it. We're a small practice of me and two other part-time people. So very small practice, and like literally cut my teeth like in this program, and yeah, started like taking what I can get during the pandemic, starting this business. And like what did that look like? I mean, that looked like some $5,000 like projects. Literally the scraps were like getting given to me, like mostly by other architects.
Right.
So like that like jumped up a little bit like that first year, to 10 maybe $20,000 like for a little commercial office TI. And I mean, the biggest shift, like you said, Richard, like really was my mindset.
Right.
Like, who am I to charge more is what I
Right.
thought, like when we first started the program. Like, who am I to charge more? And then over time I like kept saying and kind of like manifested in my head that, I'm delivering work at the quality of these other big dogs. Like,
Yep.
I actually can go to the table. And I'm pretty quick at design, and I actually don't need a huge team behind me to deliver equal or better product than some of these people I'm meeting are getting. So I saw like a opportunity there. But before we kind of get into that, my niche is custom homes and commercial office.
Right.
And the recent success was in commercial office,
Right.
which is actually a hard niche during the pandemic because the whole niche died basically.
Yeah.
And it kind of came back from the dead recently, but in a different form.
Okay.
So
Okay. Just leave us slightly intrigued there. So, do you think a lot of architects suffer from this imposter syndrome, particularly when it comes to fees? That either I think there's two, but I'm not an architect, but from what I can see, there's two. There's either, oh, I really can't charge higher fees because, hey, I'm too old, too young, too new. I'm a one-man band. I'm a woman. I'm a this. I'm a that. Into the excuse, right? So there's the I guess there's those, and then the other one is what was the other one? The mindset, the imposter. Oh, the other one is if I charge higher fees, I'll lose the project. I won't
yeah.
get the project, and so therefore I'll price based on fear. Which of those were running through your head, and how did that?
Yeah, for this particular one.
No, just in general, when you were doing the 20K, when you're doing the
Yeah.
20K projects, because that's usually where the irony is. It's harder when you're doing smaller projects. I think there's more fear, it seems to me. There's more fear
100%.
when you're doing the smaller ones. But what was running through your head
Yeah.
when you were only charging smaller amounts?
Well, I was realizing like I was getting caught in this like cycle of the fees weren't high enough. I can't hire. Being overworked. It wasn't working. So I had to make an upgrade. And like for anyone listening, like make the upgrade sooner
Right.
because like you need to survive in this profession. And I'm realizing like, wow, like we got busy, like we were landing the little jobs, but I don't have enough fee to hire someone. So I literally was in like a work prison, like, and now I'm trying to buy back my time. Getting married this year, like I need all the time I can get.
Yeah.
So I mean, that was a trigger to like change literally my perception and swing for the fences a little bit more.
Right. So was there one thing that changed your trajectory, or was it a number of things, or what made the difference? Because where would you say you are now, fees wise? If where would you say out of 10 you were, let's say a couple of years ago
Well,
on that
it's kind
scale?
of a hard question. It's not really black and white because I originally launched the practice doing 100% commercial office.
Right.
And I'm very confident in that niche. And I feel like I can charge more for that.
Right.
And then during the pandemic, like all of my commercial office projects, I had 3 going on, just completely got shut down. And I had zero thing. I put all my eggs in one basket, which is not good. And realized I had to pivot and go back to custom residential. And it had been a few years since I've done custom residential, but I love it, and I didn't have the confidence to say, "Hey, I need that. I need that high fee from you, client." I felt like I needed to kind of ease back into it. At least that was the story I had in my head.
Right. Right.
And over time, I mean, it's been 3 years now. I got confidence. I like set up this process that felt like the process that clients were getting from a higher end I mean, someone more established architect.
Yep.
Um, and once I felt like my process was high end process,
Right.
then I realized I can start charging higher fees.
Right.
So my houses are like coming in around like 55K. So they're not like astronomically high yet. I mean, after this conversation, I might hike it up.
I think you will.
I know, man. But I am confident in the commercial office.
Yeah.
That's most like I'm what 11 years into practice now, and most of my work has been commercial office, tenant improvements, core and shell, rooftops, all that stuff. So, and one thing I want to add is that I'm not really like going into these like conversations with these clients, especially this new client, like talking about fee.
No.
We're talking about their problems and like what they need to solve,
Yeah.
to make money on their project. And it's really about like literally like what their process is and like what they really need to do to get to where they need to go. And over time, they just started to trust me that almost like it didn't really matter what number I threw out because the
Exactly.
trust was already there.
Well, not just the trust, I think. Let me try and interpret that. But what you are now is it sounds like you're being more strategic because you're listening to them. You're working out, right, here's where we are now. Here's where you want to get to. And the whole discussion is around how we getting you to this place, defining what that is, how we get you there. And you're working as a team, almost like as a consultant, as opposed to, oh, I'm just doing one little piece of the whole picture. I'm just doing the design. So I'm worried about what he thinks about my price. No, I'm worried about how we're going to get to this point here. That's what it sounds like. You're being more strategic and you're working with the client to help them achieve their goal, not just help them give them a design. Would that be
100% accurate? And like the strategy, I mean, really was in the LCC, or like the low commitment consultation. I called it the feasibility study on this. It really was a glorified like space plan sketch
right?
that we sold to them for about 6,300, and we kind of like riffed on it 3 times, so they did 3 iterations of it. It was a light design process, so I did get to like bring design to it because they needed something to talk to real estate brokers.
Right.
They needed basically a sketch concept,
Yep.
so they could start raising money for the project.
Yep.
And that was actually last summer. So it took a year for the project to develop, like once we did that LCC. Which, yeah, the first month goes by and I'm in my head like, what did I say? You know what I mean?
Sure.
But I realized it just took time for them to raise money, and
Yeah.
they were in escrow. They had to close escrow on the commercial office. And it's a 40,000 square foot office. It just takes time for stuff like that.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's right. Yeah. Construction is a slow process. So, so, um, so 100K fee, did that feel like breaking a ceiling for you, or was that a punch the air moment, or was that no big deal, or
Huge deal, man. This is
right?
a huge milestone for me and for Walk Studios, the company. And yeah, it's, last summer I was out kind of like networking at some like NASCAR racing event, and ran into another architect, and he was like telling me a story how he got going, and he's like, I remember my first $100,000 project clearly. And he's like, I remember my first $1 million project. And I'm like, oh, wow. Wow. I
Yeah.
need to listen up. And ever since he said that last summer,
Yeah.
like a month later, like I met this developer basically. And I was thinking like, that's my goal, like 100,000. It was stuck in my head. I was manifesting it
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Could I have charged more? Like maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
But that 100,000 just literally stuck in my head. So it did become a like a mindset thing.
I think it's a good benchmark for most architects who aren't there.
Mm.
It is a benchmark. In cricket, we, in the sport I play a bit, is, if you score 100, you can score 100 runs, but it's a real, it's a real achievement. You know how many hundreds you scored in your career. Good players might score 4 or 5 a season. Really good players, other people have never scored one in their life. But I think it's almost feels the same, I think, to me. And once you learn, I think the first 100 is the hardest.
Yeah.
And then from there, now it's not, is it possible? The answer is yeah, it's possible. It's but now it's okay. I need another 100. And in fact, one thing they do in cricket, one thing they do in cricket, and this might be a really good thing for you, is there's a piece of advice which says when you score your first 100, you make sure you put up a chart on the wall, and you put up 100, and you name where you scored it, and then you put down 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and you leave them blank. And your job is now, now you talk about planting the seed, and now you're looking for number 2, and it's always there because it's on the wall. You're looking for 100 number 2, 100 number 3, 100 number 4. And it just becomes a focus point. And why not? If you can have a focus point, you might as well focus on 100. It's better than focusing on 20.
100%. Pun intended.
Yeah, pun intended. So that's good. So what advice would you have for people, knowing what you know now? What advice would you have for people who are, around the 20 to 50 range fees, thinking, oh, nice for him. And I guess, oh, I'm too young, I'm too old, I'm too this, I'm too that, or in my market, you can't do it around, what advice would you, or what advice would you have for them, or what advice would you have for the younger Cory?
Oh man. I mean, so my like literal like objection in my own mind was like, oh, I've got a baby face. I'm too young. I'm too young looking. But like, on paper, I mean, not on paper, my actual experience, like I've
People will
got
pay a lot of money for a baby face.
yeah, right.
That's the irony. Everyone's sitting here going, fingers down, oh, poor him. He looks
I
young.
know.
What?
But the thing is, everyone's got their bullshit.
Yes.
Excuse my French. Everyone's got their thing in their head.
You're offending the French now.
Yeah, keeping
We
them
do have
back.
French listeners here.
Right. Excuse me if you scratch that. But everyone's got their thing, I guess, when they're starting. At least I did. That
Yeah.
my advice would be it might be in your head,
Right.
and what literally to change your mindset, it's like changing a habit. And I've been looking at a lot of friends have been sending me like YouTube videos, and I've been kind of seeking out like ways to kind of control my head,
Ah,
because this has been a roller coaster um, at the start, and I mean it still is, but
yeah.
like really like once I got out of my way, like
Right.
things started getting better,
Right.
a lot better, and you just get more confidence. You find yourself making more luck,
Right.
um because you just more confident. And it really starts by, for me it took exercising every day. um uh, I'm a beach volleyball player. I play competitively too.
Oh, wow.
um and I had taken like 3 years off to start this business thinking it was like everything. And I told myself like it's not everything. I need to get this back. It makes me super happy. And I've been back playing for another year now. Um,
Oh,
so
wow.
for the last year. And that made me so much happier. And that made me a more confident person, which
Right.
made me look more confident in front of people, made me feel more confident.
Yeah.
And really like that mindset shift like was huge for me. And it's not like it's black or white. It didn't just flip and now I'm like healed. It's
Yeah.
something that like takes consistent practice every single day.
Yeah.
Literally I have to talk myself up in the mirror and build. It's like taking a vitamin like every day, you know.
Yeah. Right. You're right. Well, it's a healthy habit that you've got to keep doing. That's interesting. So I get what you're saying, because I used to play volleyball. I played competitive volleyball in New Zealand.
Amazing.
I love the game. It's a great game. Played a bit of beach volleyball. Um,
Oh.
and you see all the people playing. If you're in LA, you're probably down at Manhattan Beach and
Oh yeah.
Hermosa and all that. And there's
Mhm.
just thousands of volleyball courts there. But I know what you mean. Same for me. If I'm exercising regularly, I feel better about myself. I look better. I look, but it makes me strong. But it's about knowing what are the things that you do that make you happy and make you, and it's a trigger thing, isn't it? For me, exercise is a trigger thing, which makes everything else kind of work. And it sounds like it is for you. You're a active, moving
Athlete. I'm an
athlete. Yeah,
athlete as well.
exactly.
Yeah.
And if you're not doing that, there's something in your brain which says, it goes into grief a wee bit. Why aren't you using?
100%.
Yeah, it's like a sense of grief. It's a sense of, there's something missing in my heart or something. So now, not everybody, it's not going to be sport for everybody, but there's always something for everybody, right? So you got to know what your one is. So what I just to summarize what I've heard from you to try and one thing is you talked about having a process, which is really important, that because it makes you feel strong, right? Having a process, a high value process. If I've got that in place, then I feel I've got the structure to take a client through, and that gave you a lot of confidence.
Yeah.
The other one is probably exercise, which you said was, let's say that was number three, and then number two was realizing that the biggest thing holding you back was not actually the clients, it was actually things going off in your head. And when you removed that, then it opened you up to go and think a bigger game without beating yourself up with false beliefs.
100%. I mean, you nailed it right there. If you're interested, I could walk through like the technical aspect of how I found this client too, if
Yeah.
you'd like.
Yeah. Go for it, please.
Yeah. So, I mean, the mindset shift like played a big part of it, because once I kind of like started taking care of my mind, I was reaching out to, you know, bigger people on LinkedIn, just people doing bigger things.
Yeah.
And, you know, because commercial office is a niche of ours, a lot of our clients are on LinkedIn. It's business to business.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the question to ask, I guess, the listeners of this would be like, where are your clients? Like, what platform are they on? Are they on a platform?
Yeah.
Do you have access to them online
Yeah.
through some platform? Mine's LinkedIn. So I realized, like, we took the machine gun approach and just started like rapidly adding people on LinkedIn with a set criteria that we were looking for: commercial realtor, commercial contractor, specifically for the commercial office niche, um, and commercial developer. And our success rate was, we got a reply like 1 in 100. So
Right.
just kept, and when we got a reply, we tried to set up a coffee, and out of like the 10 people that reply, we get like one coffee.
Yeah.
So probably last year I got, maybe last January, a year and a half ago, probably set up like, I don't know, 10 coffees. And out of that, followed up and had a lunch with 2 people. So it just kept dwindling.
Right.
But the one that stuck, like, we really hit it off. And by the third or fourth or maybe even fifth time we hung out, he's my age too, the developer contractor. So
Right.
we like really hit it off. And he was actually interested. He's a contractor developer. He was interested in building one of my projects, which didn't quite work out. So I had something to offer him as well. And then he didn't even tell me about this deal brewing. And he like realized, like, oh, you didn't even talk. We were talking about a single family home actually. And he's like, you didn't even like really push on the fact that you do high-end commercial office, because that's what we're planning, until like the fourth time we hung out. So then, yeah, the fourth time he's like, I want you to take a look at this. Like, we just need a sketch, yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, sure, like $2,000 for a sketch, but I think you'd actually like benefit from, having a little feedback and like going through this maybe 3 times and like a watered down design process. He's like, that actually sounds better.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, it's gonna get you where you need to go. So yeah, it took him like 3 weeks to like sign that up, and delivered it, on time. I actually delivered it early, and I did 4 revisions of it, so it went a little further.
Yeah.
But it was enough to get him funding and set himself up. So when the project really came around, literally a year later, like, I was the guy, because of it was already sold. We already had the first transaction a year before.
Wow. Wow. So you pulled them out cold, really, and then developed a really good relationship with them.
A real relationship. That's the thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And because you're the same age, you're probably similar mindset on a lot of things. You got that rapport. With rapport comes trust. With trust comes, here's someone I can work with. I mean, I'm talking about my home, but it doesn't. This guy does it. That's amazing. Now, that's not everybody's cup of tea in terms of going through the LinkedIn and 110, 10 becoming 1 and 1 becoming, like, that's not everybody's style. It's an option, and good on you for hustling like that. It can work.
Yeah.
I always think the easiest thing is the dirty 30. Build a referral network and work out who can connect.
That's another part of it. Like, he was added to the Dirty 30 and was getting my newsletters,
Right.
and that helped build a real relationship.
Right. Right.
So it was all part of what you taught me.
Right. Right.
And fortunately I executed on that one. I failed on other ones, but just took enough at bats.
You don't need everything to work. That's the thing,
Yeah.
And the thing with the dirty 30 is you don't even know who's gonna, that most of them aren't gonna do anything. But if one or 2 of them end up coming good, that's fine. All the other 28 that didn't do anything, that's fine, because you're actually focused on the 2 that did. So that's awesome. I'm very proud of you. Uh,
Thank you.
yeah, no, I think it's great. You've done great, and just keep going up and keep getting better. I think that's it, really. Final thoughts from you?
Yeah. There's some good mindset, shifting things out there on YouTube that help me. Like just Google mindset, and you might, you know, find somebody that you really connect with on YouTube that helps.
Right,
And yeah, I stopped, like, aimlessly scrolling through Instagram and Facebook in the morning. I realized that made me unhappy.
right,
Like in the morning, it's I need to wake up and feed myself like really motivational stuff so that I can get the most out of my day. If I don't, I'm like in a slump till noon.
yeah,
So like start your day really strong with something motivating is
right.
what I want to leave it with.
That's good. I like that. Yep. Start with stuff that makes you strong to set you up for the day. I know exactly what you're talking about. Some days you look at things and you get onto things and they make you weak, and it's 2 o'clock and I haven't done anything. You know,
Yeah.
nothing of value. I've spun my wheels for the last 4. And in those situations, I'm thinking, I'd have been better to go to the gym or go for a walk and do nothing. At least I'd have got that out of it. So easy to spin your wheels and with all the social media. So yeah, cool. Hey, thanks for that. And you've done great. And I'm so pleased that we connected and got to hear. I mean, the biggest thing for me is hearing people be successful. It's such a, that's the fulfilling bit for me. Seeing people who were here and then they go and, however, they take some of our stuff, they take some stuff from somewhere else, but they do it their own way and end up in a good space. So yeah, really pleased. Good job. Thanks, man.
Yeah, no, thank you, man. Like, your lessons like got me here. Like no joke.
Yeah, that's cool.
So keep teaching people.
Thank you. All right.